So welcome again, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to join us today. We're going to be talking about community organizations and City Hall and collaborations with Jason Veltri. Sorry. So just before we begin today, I would like to start off with a land acknowledgement. ProudPolitics is based out of Toronto, and Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabes, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and the land. All subsequent Indigenous nations, including peoples, newcomers, Europeans, have all been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And these are values that we hope to uphold at ProudPolitics as well. It is very important for all of us to recognize our history with our Indigenous peoples, but also to make efforts for reconciliation going forward. And without further ado, just to talk to you a little bit about what today is going to look like, or rather tonight. We're going to begin with a short icebreaker just to sort of get people pumped up and excited for the municipal elections that are coming. And then I'm going to talk a bit about ProudPolitics and what it is exactly that we do. We're going to introduce our speaker. We're going to have a wonderful discussion on municipal politics and have a Q&A period. Just a note for housekeeping with all of our participants, you're welcome to ask questions at any point throughout the webinar, whether you raise your hand or whether you add something in the chat. You are encouraged to participate. However, if you're more comfortable waiting until the end when we have our official Q&A period, that is totally okay too. And as always, just to be respectful, try to keep your mic off when somebody else is talking so we don't have interference. So just a couple questions for the audience. Does anybody in the audience know what advanced voting is? Something very important, very cool. Oh, I see a hand up already. Something that the reason I ask is because not everybody's aware of advanced voting. So I just want to make sure everybody knows so that we encourage and raise those voting numbers. So Elio, do you want to speak to us today? What is advanced voting?
Thank you. Advanced voting is essentially voting in advance of the election date, which is October 24th. You can do it the same way you vote regularly at a polling station with your ID or through a mail-in ballot.
Awesome. And now just to do a quick poll, I'm just going to be launching a poll. So answer as soon as you see it. When are the municipal elections taking place? Some of you may have heard that elections are happening, but let's all make sure we're on the same page. When is it that we're going to be casting our ballots here in Ontario? Okay, I'm going to give people about 10 more seconds to answer. Awesome. I see most people have voted. Just going to wait a couple extra seconds for the last few. Awesome. Well, most of the answers are correct. I will give you guys that. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, I will end the poll and share the results. So most of you are correct. October 24th is the day municipal elections are happening. Please do double check with your municipality in case it is different across Canada, but this is true for Toronto. This is true for across Ontario, but our municipal elections are happening all across Canada. So please do double check their final dates. October 24th is the most common election date. So thank you so much. I have one last question, and this is a question that I myself learned while I was studying politics in university, which I did not know prior when I was actually voting in various elections. What exactly are we voting for? It's municipal elections. So let me just launch this poll. And you guys tell me, what do you think? Who do we, when we talk about city elections, mayor is, we think a city mayor, we're voting for mayor, but who else is on the ballot? Who are we voting for? Majority correct answer, love to see it. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 10 more seconds before we move on. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so majority gave a correct answer. I'm just gonna share the results with you. We are voting for mayor, correct, as well as city councilors. So who else are there's a third person? School board trustees. That was something I did not know until just a couple years ago. We're also voting for school board trustees to represent us. So for example, in Toronto, the Toronto District School Board and the Catholic District School Board, all of those, each different riding also has a representative from those ridings who are also running for election. And then we get to vote for them. Sorry, guys. Okay. So just for everybody here today, just basically a repeat of what I was saying. We do vote for mayor, city councilors, and school board trustees, and there is also advanced voting days. So if you look on the screen right now, October 7th to October 14th is advanced voting days, which means you have that week to be able to go out there, vote, do what you would normally do, but in advance. I strongly encourage advanced voting, because what happens if October 24th comes around and something happens that day and you're not able to dedicate the time to go and vote? So try to vote in advanced voting days, whether by mail-in ballot or just showing up to your voting booth between October 7th and 14th. And if you go on the elections website, they'll be able to tell you where you can find your nearest voting booth. So with our icebreaker out of the way and all of us knowing when municipal elections are happening and how we can vote, I just want to talk to you a little bit about ProudPolitics. So my name is Christina. I should start off with that. I'm the program manager of ProudPolitics, which is a way of saying that I plan events, which I love to do. And what ProudPolitics aims to do is to diversify. Oh, actually, something even important. Don't forget about internet voting, October 5th to October 24th at Thunder Bay. So that's a great point. Thank you, Brent, for pointing that out. In Thunder Bay, you're also, if you're joining us from Thunder Bay, you'll also be able to vote on the internet, online. So from October 5th to 24th. So you got 19 days to also vote on the internet, which is great. Love the accessibility there. That's amazing. So you don't even have to leave your house to vote. So remember those dates if you are in Thunder Bay or a municipality that allows it. And vote. Just as long as you vote, doesn't matter how you do it, just get out there and vote. Youth have the lowest voter turnout, so especially if you're a youth and you're listening to me right now, go out there and vote for your municipal elections. And now a bit back to ProudPolitics. What we want to do is diversify politics and make sure that there are to us LGBTQ plus leaders who are representing the entire community on a global, on a national, provincial, and regional scale. So we're trying to break down barriers for marginalized and underrepresented leaders to realize their potential. And we go towards this goal by growing our network of candidates, bringing attention to and supporting their campaigns, hosting webinars such as this, and doing in-person candidate training sessions, and obviously community outreach collaborations with other organizations. If you want to know more, proudpolitics.org/about to learn more about us, or proudpolitics.org/candidates, where you'll actually be able to see a list of the past federal election and provincial election, and soon our upcoming municipal elections, to see all the queer candidates who are running, and you can see if one of them is running in your riding, so you can support queer candidates and work towards voting more representation in politics so that our politics represents our population. Abraham in the chat is saying everyone should vote, let your voice be heard. Absolute great message, and I hope that is something you take away from these last 10 minutes is go vote. So now a bit about our speaker today. Today with us, we have Jason Veltri. Jason Veltri is a community organizer. He is an activist. He spent several years of his life working towards making life better for Indigenous as well as equity-seeking and racialized communities. And he's running now in Thunder Bay to be a city councilor. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about throughout our discussion today is also the Rainbow Collective, with Jason Veltri founded in Thunder Bay. So he is the founder of the Rainbow Collective of Thunder Bay. And as well, he hopes for local businesses and organizations to have the training and the tools to better understand and build inclusive spaces for LGBTQ plus communities. And now a bit of our discussion. So we're going to launch into our discussion with questions. However, at any point, I want to emphasize this. If you have a question for Jason or something about what we're talking about, feel free to add it in the chat or raise your hand and you can speak yourself. At the end, we will also be having an audience Q&A, so you can save your questions for the end or just join into conversations. Don't be shy. No such thing as a bad question is something I love to say. So let's get into it. I guess the first question for Jason is that you are an activist, community organizer, founder of the Rainbow Collective of Thunder Bay, and now you want to be a city councilor. So what is your motivation and what has made you want to run for Thunder Bay City Council?
Yeah, so thanks, Christina, and hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. Quickly, I come to you from the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850, the lands of the Fort William First Nation. So thank you for again having me. My pronouns are he, him. So really, why am I running? I'm running for a few reasons. One, it's important to have representation that represents or that is our community around the table. We have not yet had an openly gay person that has sat around the Thunder Bay City Council table. And I think that it's long overdue. I come with a different perspective. I see things from a generational difference. I will be 39 tomorrow. And I think it's time that some of the younger crew of this community step up, and we're seeing it. We are seeing a lot younger folks running, and it's time to make a change. The other reason is my nieces and nephews. I don't have kids of my own, but they're as close as I'll probably get, and I want to see them stay in Thunder Bay. I left in 2006 to go out ride the oil and gas wave in Calgary. And I came back about 4 years ago. And living in Calgary and in Toronto for a period of time, we left. We left for opportunity. We left because we didn't see ourselves in our community as queer people. And now is a time that I feel like I need to step up and give back. The last 4 years, I've dedicated myself to building out Pride in Thunder Bay, ensuring that we have the resources through Rainbow Collective to educate businesses and organizations in our community. So there's a multitude of reasons, but for me, it's about keeping my nieces and nephews in Thunder Bay, to give them an opportunity to not only succeed, but to grow, build a family, and contribute back to their community just like their uncle is.
Very beautiful and heartfelt answer. And I think as somebody running for politics, definitely wanting to make your community a better place and a more enjoyable place for constituents and for family. That's very sweet and a great sort of goal towards running. You also mentioned in your response the Rainbow Collective, and I just had a quick poll to ask for our participants here today. So I'm just going to launch it. Have any of you heard of the Rainbow Collective before? They have multiple chapters, not outside of Thunder Bay as well. So just let us know if you've heard of it, not heard of it, or maybe you think you've heard of it, but you're not sure. So if you don't remember, but the name sounds familiar, feel free to press maybe. Okay, various answers. We're going to be talking about that next. Just going to give people about 10 more seconds to answer. Okay, this is awesome. So just to share the results with you all, about half of you who answered have heard of the Rainbow Collective, which is absolutely wonderful. 2 of you haven't, but you can't say that anymore because now you officially have. So next time somebody asks you, you have to say yes. And then 3 of you maybe or do not remember, which now obviously the next time somebody asks, you'll all be saying yes. So without further ado, I just want to ask you, as the founder of the Rainbow Collective of Thunder Bay, what is the organization's purpose? Could you tell us a bit more about the goals and initiatives, the work you strive towards?
Yeah, so the Rainbow Collective was launched in March of 2021, kind of 1 year into the pandemic. And it was really to fill a gap in our community. So there is another organization, it's called Thunder Pride, and they operate in the community also. But I was a former chair of that organization prior to launching Rainbow Collective. And really it's from the learning that I came from at Thunder Pride there was at that time only one organization doing everything, or the expectation to do everything. And it's hard for one small group of volunteer-based board of directors to do training and plan Pride and put on monthly events and advocate to government and all of the things that an organization like that is supposed to do. So we launched, and it really is to serve the purpose of advocacy, bringing out more awareness and education to our community. As I spoke of earlier, we have a variety of workshops that we provide to the community around gender and sexual diversity and inclusion, coming out, trans health and trans mental health. We have pronouns, the pronouns 101 to give you an idea of just what it means for some people that they don't know yet. So it really is to drive out that. And then there's a certification process that businesses can go through with our GSD training, so that they can demonstrate to the community that they've not only walked the walk through our training, but that they're a good corporate citizen for folks who are on the LGBT spectrum, to go to a business and say, I'm going to feel included here. They're going to know how to address me, and I'm going to have a safer space than I did maybe somewhere else. And I think that's the purpose of Rainbow Collective, is to do the education component and the advocacy to government. And we also put on Pride, but we do that with our partners at Thunder Pride.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've had experience working a bit with Thunder Pride, as well as working with Rainbow Collective. And so my next question is, have you also done any kinds of workshops or collaboration with City Council or with government resources? And what has that experience been like, these kind of collaborations between community organizations as well as city government, local government?
Yeah, so we have, and obviously because of my political background and my work trying to be heard in our community, we have been able to be at council quite a bit. Actually, we were there 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago Monday, we were there to give an overview of who we are, because we actually never have done that yet, although we had been at council prior to that. But one example would be conversion therapy. We actively took a role when we knew that the first go around of the bill was going to fail, and then an election.
Sorry, I'm removing.
That's okay.
Sorry, we have the issue of Zoom bombing because we do want to make this accessible and provide the Zoom link. I really apologize, Jason. Please continue.
No, that's okay. It's okay. So we were talking to council about, going back and bringing a report forward around how can the municipality protect LGBTQIA2S folks from potential harms of conversion practices. And inevitably Bill C4 passed in the new parliament. But what we did was we took that and changed it and said, then you need to find a safe use policy for city run and city funded facilities to ensure that you're doing due diligence on those who are renting space. Because inevitably an anti-trans speaker could come to Thunder Bay, rent a municipal facility and not be screened appropriately and spew garbage and harm individuals in the process without being checked. So that's in the process right now. I believe a report's coming back in September on that, so we'll stay tuned on that. But like I said, we've been at City Council quite a bit, moving things forward. Rainbow and trans crosswalks were installed in Thunder Bay in the summer of 2020, which was, of course, a hot button issue for those who felt like a rainbow crosswalk wasn't important to them. But we plowed through that bigotry and hate that was spewing through the community because of it. And they were just updated again this year to be more bright, vibrant and beautiful in our city. So those are just a couple examples of the work that Rainbow Collective and I have done to really advance and create partnership with government and local community organizations to ensure that that collaboration is happening. And quickly, just on the crosswalks, that was a third funding. So the city put in a third. At the time, Thunder Pride raised a third of the money through community donations, and the contractor who was installing it at the time donated a third of the money to do that. So that's how collaboration works with me. That's what I would do if I was sitting at the table, is how do we not only reduce the burden on taxpayers to absorb everything for everyone, is that what's your fundraising plan? How are you going to go and raise even $1,000 to support the work that you're asking for the taxpayers of the community to build. So those partnerships are key in moving forward and advancing projects that the community want to see.
Absolutely. And like that's such a terrific example. I love the crosswalks and the whole initiative that you championed, with major metropolitan cities like maybe Toronto, New York City, you expect there to maybe be like a gay community, a crosswalk, but then in smaller communities like Thunder Bay, it's even more important to have that representation so that all members of the community in every city feel included. And I love what you were mentioning about the funding, like how it was split 3 ways because everybody wanted to contribute. And ultimately, I think that's the beauty of collaborations, is that rather than one sort of party taking on all the responsibility and all the roles, you're able to sort of divvy up the tasks and make it more intentional between 3 people wanting to all contribute to it. That's amazing. Like, thank you so much for all the work that you've done with the Rainbow Collective and all of your collaborations with City Hall. My next question, I hope is not too loaded, but I am wondering, you were mentioning about the workshops and the trainings that you've done with the Rainbow Collective. I haven't heard about, different local governments doing those kinds of sessions. So my question is, do you believe that sometimes community organizations fill in gaps left by municipal policies? Like the work that they do is almost like niche work that the government simply does not do. And if they don't do it, somebody else has to pick up that slack and fill in those gaps left by municipal governments.
Yeah, I would say yes. And I think the prime example is conversion therapy that we were the second municipality in Ontario to actually tackle that. It took political will to do it. It took bravery from our organization and the folks that were driving out the ask of that to speak up and say we need to do more. It was also like a relatively small municipality in the province, but it showed that a more urban, rural municipality could tackle these issues. Thunder Bay has been behind the 8 ball on a lot of things, and it's time that we brought Thunder Bay into the 21st century. So now we're doing that, and we're doing it through organizations like ours and many others out there who go to council and say, we need your help and we want to do this together with you. That is the new way forward, is collaboration, and not this expectation that government needs to do it all. Government may need a nudge and a push and some pressure applied from the community that's coming to make their case. But that's how change happens, is typically through somebody coming and making a deputation around something like conversion therapy and saying enough is enough. We need to do more to protect our citizens in our community, and standing up against the hate that inevitably follows those types of things, where it's you're just throwing gay stuff down our throats, and no one has a problem with it. I have friends who are gay, but these are real problems in our society today. Is we have to eradicate that thinking. We're going to have to do it through education, continuing to hold space and demand change and advocate for policy renewal. So those are all ways that I would say we would collaborate and build on creating change within our community. Is very similar to what we did with conversion therapy.
I really like all the points that you brought up are all terrific. I like how you were talking about how sometimes I guess there can be backlash where people say when is it enough, to all this gay stuff shoving down our throats and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that's such a weak argument for backlash, because for most of human history, as we all know, most media was all very cisgender, heteronormative, and it is only in recent decades that the gay movements and LGBTQ rights movement is all coming forward. So now we're trying to make up for all those centuries when LGBTQ community members did not have rights. So now we're trying to make everybody feel included. So it's what's your problem, man? You had it your way, now let's do it everyone's way. But yeah, thank you so much for your response. So we talked a lot about really positive collaborations and really success stories about how community organizations and City Hall can work together. But I also have a question on the other side. Have you had any obstacles when collaborating with local government?
Oh, that's a good question. I think not so much with I would say maybe I'll use an example around the conversion therapy discussion when we brought it forward in late 2021. There was a counselor who decided that the ask of a report was too much, that the city could only do advocacy work. They would send a letter to the Prime Minister saying to pass the bill, and that the city condemns the behavior, but wanted to strip out the language of asking administration to bring back a report on tools that the city had, either existing or potentially building new, on protecting 2S LGBTQIA people in our community from these torturous behaviors. So inevitably it didn't happen. The amendment did not get a seconder. The report came forward, but I would say that was our biggest challenge is inevitably having counselors understand the purposes behind the asks of community organizations and listen and not think outside of their own box, so to speak, around what they think is right or wrong. A community organization living and breathing the work with lived experiences is coming to council to ask for something. You need to hear them and you need to embrace. And what's a report? Like, at the end of the day, if it takes a year to get a report, it takes a year to get a report. But at the end of the day, it's going to provide that information necessary to make a decision, positive or negative, like it or hate it, everything in between. But that is the sole purpose of the ask. So that may be the one barrier we faced. Everything else has been well received. We've been very well accepted around the council table, advocating for the removal of gender pronouns within the community, within City Hall. So no longer is it, Mr. Veltri making a deputation. It's Deputant Veltri. It's, councilors are by their last name, or it's City Manager Gale or Manager Smith. And we've moved away from Mr. and Mrs. because not everybody is a Mr. and Mrs. We know that around this table here. But that inevitably saw some pushback around council table. Why? Why do we need to do this? But we educated and we talked about it, and we said that this is an important move forward to open City Hall up for everyone, because City Hall is meant to represent everyone who lives in our community, who comes and visits, who comes and spends their money, all of that. So those are maybe some of the small barriers, but we're very persistent at Rainbow Collective.
And persistence is key to getting the change you want accomplished. I worry sometimes that with government, when a community organization comes up with a proposal, the government's thought would be something like, "Oh, have we done this before? No. Okay, you know what? We can't do this. Let's send our thoughts and prayers. We'll condemn the action. But there's nothing we can do because we haven't done it in the past." So I think what government and what politics needs is more innovative people running for city council, people who want to go in there and be like, "Listen, like, some things work, but some things we can definitely improve on. Like, how can we improve our relationship with community organizations? What's something we haven't done that we can start doing now to improve those collaborations and make them more successful?"
And I would just add, like, we're in a time now where conversations are happening. They're happening around residential schools, unmarked graves, reconciliation, queer and trans rights. And we're having these social discussions that are hugely uncomfortable for so many people. And they are rightly so meant to be uncomfortable. So we need people around the table who are ready to have uncomfortable and tough conversations about human rights and equity. And that is the basis of the work that I'm doing, and that's why I'm running, is that we need to see things from an equity lens. If we start addressing root cause issues like mental health and addiction or queer rights or reconciliation, we have to see it through an equity lens. If we start viewing decisions based on helping the most amount of people, then we are actually succeeding at changing the structure that is colonialism. We are dismantling colonialism piece by piece by bringing in equity as a foundation of the decision making that we're doing. And that's challenging city administration to think outside their box, to think outside the colonial way of doing government, of, yeah, we're going to pave the roads this year, and then we're going to build this park, and then we're going to maybe put this in and that in. Well, does it help the most amount of people? That's the question that I will be asking every single time if I'm sitting around that table.
Really extremely well said. I think we need a lot of politicians like you, those who are not afraid to have those difficult conversations, and those who really are trying to make policies that, help everybody. And if helping the majority neglects a small group, then making sure that those minority groups are also sort of not ostracized by any kind of policies, and that policies really
or abandoned.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. So to take a bit of a turn outside of just community organization and city hall collaborations, I want to talk a little bit about Thunder Bay specifically, but I first have a question for the audience. So just give me 1 second to launch it.
Sure.
Okay. From the audience and those who are present with us here today, have you guys been to Thunder Bay before? Does anybody have any positive stories about Thunder Bay? Something that, really struck them, like, oh, I really enjoyed this part of Thunder Bay, or, oh, I'm sure it's great, but this one thing, or, what are your thoughts? Okay, I'll give you guys about 10 seconds. And if anybody would like to share their experience in Thunder Bay or what struck them as, unique in Thunder Bay, feel free to raise your hand and share. Everybody has voted. I'm just going to be sharing the results. We're split about 50-50. Half of us have been, I'm not participating, but half of us have been to Thunder Bay. 6 of us, 5 of us have not, and 1 does not remember maybe. Thunder Bay, very cool name. So I understand if, there's, maybe a Van wife, but yeah.
There's a good story behind that. There's a good story behind why the name is.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Okay, so 51 and a half years ago, Thunder Bay came to be, and there was a plebiscite, so to speak, on what the new name of the 2 communities would be. So there was Port Arthur and Fort William. They were 2 sister cities. They both had mayors. They both had councils, and inevitably they were amalgamating. And so it was Thunder Bay, Lakehead, and the Lakehead as the 3 choices to rename Port Arthur and Fort William. So it was obviously set up to fail, and somebody wanted Thunder Bay from the beginning. That's how I see it. But when you split the vote between the Lakehead and Lakehead, but we are affectionately known as, the Lakehead, as we are at the top of the lake, and the head of the largest freshwater lake in the world. So that's just a little side note on Thunder Bay.
No, thank you so much for that history tidbit. And if I'm not mistaken, just based on what you mentioned, that would mean Lakehead University is located within Thunder Bay.
Correct.
Connecting the dots.
Correct.
But yeah. Oh, amazing. Oh, so we have some comments in the chat as well. Brent was saying that if you come for a visit to Thunder Bay, you will be hooked. So for those of us who haven't been, myself included, now we have an enticing reason to, because, we will enjoy it. And Sharon also said that when in her experience in her trip to Thunder Bay, the people were very kind. They had a stop over there, and the people I asked for directions and help were all very helpful and kind. Adjectives that I hope are common across all Canadians, as that is our reputation for being very kind. And then Brent also added that they went to Lakehead University, so we have representation from the university as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really interesting. And now I will repeat that story to people who are interested in learning more about Thunder Bay's history.
Yeah, we're rich. We're very rich and diverse community, and becoming more diverse by the moment. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else now after having lived other places. I missed the lake when I lived in the mountains. I missed the mountains when I lived at the lake, but I grew up on Lake Superior. I have a cottage 2 hours east of the city. I missed that connection with water. And, as I learn more, or as I say, I'm on my unlearning journey around colonialism and then relearning behaviors. And it's one thing now to realize the connection with land and water that you had growing up and fishing and just being out with Mother Nature. And I think that's a real, I hate the bugs, don't get me wrong. But there's something about Thunder Bay that's super special. And I don't know if anyone can really put their thumb on it, but it's one of these unique cities that has a little bit of everything. There's incredible long winter. I use incredible with quotes here, incredible. It can go both ways, especially when it lasts till the end of May. But you've got the water, you've got skiing, you've got snowshoeing, and you've got boating, and there's just everything here.
Mm-hmm. And I don't believe you are alone in your frustration with bugs. I feel like humans can only feel one of two ways when it comes to bugs, and that is frustrated or indifferent. But I have not met anybody who genuinely enjoys. Doesn't stop us from camping though, and still experiencing, being immersed in nature for sure.
Yeah.
Brent said to check out YouTube. Oh, bugs have rights too. Oh, awesome. Okay, well, anybody who's looking for something to do after tonight's webinar, check it out on YouTube. Bugs have rights too. At this time, does anybody have any questions for Jason before we move on to talk a bit more specifically about Jason's campaign in Thunder Bay and what change he wants to make? Does anybody have any other questions? As I mentioned at the start, you're welcome to join it at any point. Raise your hand, type message in the chat as you guys are already doing, which is awesome, or save your questions for the end as well. Any of those options are totally fine. But for now, Jason, as a question for you, so you're running for city council, what kind of change do you want to make in Thunder Bay? You talked already about wanting to be that politician that has the difficult conversations, about wanting to have that great relationship with community organizations, splitting up the responsibility and working on all kinds of great initiatives. But I guess specifically with Thunder Bay, and maybe even specifically within your ward, what ideas do you have for change in Thunder Bay?
Yeah, I think this is the election that people are inevitably asking about mental health and addiction. Thunder Bay is not immune, just as many other communities are struggling with this. So I think we have to go back to root cause and have conversations about how we support. We've got to advocate to the province for more fair share of what we need, especially up here in the north. But for me, it's about ensuring that folks have a fair shake and that we're making decisions in the best interest of all and not just a few. So does that mean building more roads and expanding our community's footprint? Or does that mean actually having conversations about infill and looking at how we grow our community up instead of out? It's about building the infrastructure to grow and bring families to Thunder Bay. So we're in a virtual world now. We're in a virtual working environment where jobs don't have to be in downtown Toronto anymore. The cost of living is a lot cheaper in Thunder Bay, although some people here may argue differently, but it is substantially less than in the larger metropolitan areas in our province and or other provinces that border us. So could you work from Thunder Bay? Buy a house for half the cost that you could do in downtown Toronto. Have the amenities of natural beauty around you and an international airport that has 7 to 10 flights a day going to Toronto. Those are the things that I think we need to focus on. I mean, among a million other issues. As Brent rightly so, and full disclosure, Brent's running for city council in Thunder Bay too. We have a cruise ship that comes in here. It's coming in on tomorrow, actually. But that's a start of something new here. And we have to make sure that we have enough for folks that are coming to visit our community. So it's about ensuring that we grow a community that we can not only be proud of, but that retains our youth, has opportunity for youth to succeed. That means a turf facility, and not most people won't understand that here, but we're having a large argument in this city about building indoor facilities for folks to use that are multi-sport and multi-faceted. And I am a proponent of it, and I will champion it if elected, because if we build quality infrastructure that grows the social fabric of our community, we all succeed. Families move here, small businesses set up, and that means inevitably, as Brent said, if you build it, they will come. It increases our economic activity. It brings in new folks to visit, potentially has families relocate here, and creates a long-lasting legacy to be used by generations of youth and everyone in between. That's the focus for this campaign. When we start addressing all of those issues, the crime issue will be dealt with. I mean, we're never going to rid our communities of crime. I want to be clear on that. Like, there's no magic or silver bullet that's going to just stop everything tomorrow. But we've got to ensure that the provincial and federal governments are a partner with us, and that we have their ear, but that we're also getting our fair share in the North. Because for all too long, the North has been ignored by successive governments of all different stripes. And we are one of the fastest growing areas now in the province, in the North. So when we need our fair share. So that's, using our voice, demanding our fair share is really going to be the focus of this next term of council.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that. Definitely, I've heard about Thunder Bay so much, and I have never gone to visit, but I really am interested, and I want to see more about Thunder Bay, explore more of Toronto, and as Brent was saying in the chat, that like there's a lot of great world-class cruise ships, as well as home with the Sleeping Giant. Are you familiar with the Sleeping Giant? Somebody want to fill me in, and maybe the audience, what is the Sleeping Giant? Anyone in the audience know? Okay, so maybe Brent, if you want to let us know in the chat, or Jason, if you're familiar, just to speak on it. Yeah, what is the Sleeping Giant, you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm happy to start. So the Sleeping Giant is an English colonial way of speaking. It's actually a nanabijou, and what it is back in many generations ago, she went to sleep, and it's rooted in Indigenous culture, and it's, I think, an incredible wonder of the world that most people need to see. And it's a spectacular site in our community, and holds incredible sacred meaning to Indigenous community here on these lands. So that's the Sleeping Giant as we know it today. Very quick, not very deep, but very quick.
No, thank you so much. I actually was just Googling it myself to just see exactly what you're talking about, and the views are gorgeous. So yeah, I mean, definitely. Next time we connect, I will let you know about when my trip to Thunder Bay is booked, because I want to see this for myself. It is absolutely gorgeous.
And there's some incredible hiking trails on it. There's something for every if it's difficult or light or moderate, there's something there for everyone. The other one would be the Seahorse. If you Google the Seahorse Sleeping Giant, it's another very iconic shot that's used in most tourism campaigns. But yeah, it's a pretty special place in our community.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Well, before we go on a tangent about tourism in Thunder Bay, because as wonderful as that is, we do have a mission here, and that is to increase LGBTQ plus representation in politics. But unfortunately, sometimes there's a lot of obstacles with that, especially among youth. They're not as interested in politics. A lot of youth will have the very valid opinion of, my vote will not make a difference. There's a sense of like apathy towards politics. Like, why should I care? Everybody does the same thing. Nothing is changing. There's no drastic change happening. And a lot of youth become sort of disinterested in going to vote, or especially running for office. But how are we supposed to have representation, across all spectrums, all ethnicities, all genders, all sexualities, if we cannot encourage the young generation to vote? So my question to you, as somebody who's going through this voting process and who was a youth yourself too once, are there any initiatives that you believe would be particularly successful, or that have already been successful, or how we can amend current initiatives? Just what can we do, or what do you think we can do to increase political engagement and civic engagement among 2S LGBTQ plus youth, or youth in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the age-old question that we've struggled with, because I think one, political spheres, city, provincial, federal, have never seen the representation of their own kind around the table. So that can go for BIPOC, Indigenous, racialized, LGBT. We have right now, currently, 3, Rebecca, Kristen, and Shelby. So 3 women out of 13 around a table. That's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. There are, I think it's 2-to-1 right now, men running versus women. For the first time in our history, there's me, and there is another gentleman running for mayor who is part of our community. And I don't think that's happened ever, let alone me running. I was one of the first out of the gates, and then Gary got in recently. And again, it's about ensuring that those who are around the table look like our community. And that will inevitably drive folks to get more involved. We need to get into classrooms and actually talk to students one-on-one about why politics matters and what civic engagement really is. Having pride in your community, getting involved and volunteering for our Live at the Waterfront series, to giving back to seniors' homes, or going volunteering at the 55 Plus Center. That's how we start driving the engagement in our youth, of all youth, to get more involved, is having the right people at the table who actually represent and look like those kids that are around. In Thunder Bay, we, as Brent said earlier, we have internet voting. So that was first used 4 years ago, along with telephone voting, which has been disbanded this time. There's going to be drive-through voting this year in Thunder Bay. So you can just take your car and drive through and vote. We've got to find innovative ways to get folks to the polls. And if that means internet voting, drive-through voting, going to the college and university, the feds and the provincial government have started to do that. They've set up polls at both of the campuses here. But until youth feel like they're being heard, then their engagement will stay low. And, I think we have to do more to engage with them. So those are just some of the things that we're doing at Thunder Bay, at least, to try to get folks to the polls. Literally, you can sit on your couch while watching Big Brother and vote for someone. It takes 30 seconds to log in with your code, click as many dots as you need to, and hit send. And that's it.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's something I learned on this call as well, that there's internet voting and drive-through voting. Like, that's all amazing. Telephone voting, you mentioned, was disbanded, and I understand like how there could be like fraudulency, like on telephone, like somebody could phone in for you, so I understand.
Well, it was just a little bit harder to work. Because if you have, for example, right now we have 23, I think it is, 24 at-large counselors running, you know, you're gonna have to sit through every name on the phone and remember what number was associated with that person. So it was a little bit more difficult for folks to use, where the internet voting is simple, or you can go and get a paper ballot. At any of the advanced polls, there's 2 different dates over 2 different weekends. And again, the drive-through voting, which is coming this year, which I'm really intrigued to see how it works, and the engagement that might bring.
We actually have a participant named Diana in the chat who said, love the drive-through voting idea. So that's awesome. Like, I definitely think it is a great way to attract youth, especially because people are always on the go. There's many drivers in every community. So for people who don't have as much time, you know, people who are looking to get a fast meal, they go drive through to a fast food restaurant. Well, if you don't want to wait in line, get out of your car, find parking, all of that. Like, it definitely removes a lot of barriers to voting. So I think it's a good idea. I think Thunder Bay is honestly being very innovative here. And actually, Carla just shared in the chat, why don't we have these voting options in other ridings and levels of government? So Thunder Bay is really just being like a champion in voting variety, and sort of finding new ways to engage with all different age groups, and getting people to go out there and vote. Like, you know, hats off to Thunder Bay, just awesome.
I'll share that with the city clerk because they've worked very hard at opening up opportunity for folks to vote.
My last question for you before we begin, like an audience Q&A. Oh, there's hashtags going on in the chat. You're starting trends now, Jason. Hashtag gatekeeping, hashtag inaccessible. Like, I'm guessing accessible towards outside of Thunder Bay regions, of course. Yeah. But I just have one more final question for you before we ask questions from the audience as well. And that is really just advice for all of us and, you know, anybody who's interested about getting involved in politics, making a positive difference in your communities. What kind of advice do you have for Canadians? Like, what is something that you did not know before running, or something that, you know, you're like, oh, before you think about running, you know, you should go do this, or you're not sure about running, you know, this is something that hopefully motivates you. Just what is your feedback? What advice do you have?
Yeah, I would say jump in head first. So
okay.
I am learning so much every day that, look, I've worked on campaigns since I was 17. Couldn't even vote yet, and I was working on a municipal campaign, pounding the pavement, handing out flyers, doing whatever needed to be done, put signs up. And I've worked with a lot of candidates over the years, working on different campaigns at the provincial and federal level. But when you're solely focused on one person and helping one person, you don't actually feel what a candidate feels. So now I'm on, the other shoe is on. And I'll tell you that it is such a ride. It's emotional, it's anxiety ridden, it's a wonderful feeling to be involved in making change in your community. And that is, for me, jumping in head first, giving back to folks that have given to you or haven't, but want to make a change. It's anyone who runs has my appreciation, because politics is not easy today. It's down and dirty. It's cutthroat. It's trying to destroy folks. And for what reason? They're literally putting, if you want to do it, then put your name on the ballot. You have till 2 p.m. tomorrow in Ontario to go put your name on a ballot. So go do it. You know, it's about living and breathing and putting your mouth, I say, for me, putting my money where my mouth is. You know, I've sat around many different tables, but I'm not at that table. So having a seat at the table inevitably leads to having a voice at that table, having a voice for somebody who may not have that voice yet. And I say that about the work that I do at Rainbow Collective, and they're very similar with what I would be doing at council, is continuing to speak up for those who still not only don't see themselves in our community, but who don't have their voice yet. So, you know, I would say to anyone, just if you're thinking about it, do it, because it's the one, for me right now, it's changing my life, and could potentially change my life even more on October 24th. If not, I will go back to doing what I was doing and continue to change the world and be that change. So yeah, do it. I encourage anyone to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And terrific advice too. Yeah. Brent also said, Brent, who's also running for city council in Thunder Bay, be the change you want to see. So I think that both amazing advice. I think a lot of the time people just hate politics or don't want to discuss politics. But if you hate the way politics is, there's no better way to change it than to join them, you know, join them and change it from the inside, become a politician yourself. If you're frustrated with politicians, then go and be at the seat with them, be at that table and tell them, listen, like, you know, you're doing this wrong. You know, I think we should do it like this, like bring all of your positive ideas to the table. So amazing advice.
Yeah. And one piece of advice to anybody, stay out of the comment section.
That is great advice. The internet is very toxic. So yeah, and there's no way to please everybody. So that's absolutely terrific advice. You know the reasons you're running for, you know the kind of positive change you want to make. Don't let anybody else convince you otherwise,
Right. But you have to get to people's doors. At least in Thunder Bay, we're very old school that way. Door knocking wins you elections. So the more people you see, the more people that will remember you, especially in a ward like mine, where there is no incumbent this year. I've done about 500 doors already in the last few weeks, and I'm going to keep plowing away until October 24th. But door knocking matters. Door knocking works. Meeting people face to face when it's safe and when you feel safe to do it matters. It changes the perception of somebody that you're seeing through rose-colored glasses, so to speak, on Facebook.
No, for sure, absolutely. I know, like, my interest in politics started because I was living in Kathleen Wynne's riding, who is a former premier of Ontario, once upon a time, and she knocked at my door, and I was like, I've seen your face somewhere, and just the fact that they would come to like my door, I didn't even realize she was running in my riding. So just being able to see a politician face to face, especially for youth as well, oh wow, like they care about me, like they came to see me and like my opinion, and to give me a flyer, it gets you interested. It makes you believe you're part of the process, it lets you realize you are part of the process.
But I would just end with saying door knocking doesn't start and end on October 24th. Mm-hmm. It's a continuous thing, especially those that are elected. You have to be at everyone. Like, this is one thing that a friend of mine who's in politics, and we live by this. Door knocking is a 4-year thing. It's you go out and you make yourself seen, and when you're attentive to folks who are inevitably voting you in, showing up unannounced 2 years into your term, they're gonna go, wow, why are you here? I want to listen. That's really important.
That's really well said, honestly. I think just based on your responses today and like your insights, I think it's very clear that you care most about the constituents and you're running for all the right reasons because you want to improve the lives, the welfare of your constituents. And we wish you all the best of luck with your campaign. Absolutely. Thunder Bay would be lucky to have you in City Council.
Thank you.
At this time, if there's any questions from the audience, we've heard a lot from Jason today. You've already probably heard too much from me too. But if you have any questions that you'd want to ask, like, now is the opportunity to. Feel free to put them in the chat or to raise your hand and ask them as well. It could be about anything we discussed today, or if you have any general questions about municipal politics or Thunder Bay, feel free. In the meantime, I will also just add in the chat Thank you so much for coming from the bottom of my heart. It's so important to engage in discussions like this and to always challenge ourselves and learn more. So if you have any feedback for us about anything that we could do better in the future with these webinars, and just give us your feedback about what you thought today, please do the feedback form. It takes about a minute to do, maybe less if you're quick. So feel free to open the link now before the Zoom closes, and then you can save it for later. And if you're interested in knowing about all the different queer candidates that have run in the past, the provincial and federal election, and soon the municipal election as well, please do check out our ProudPolitics website, because proudpolitics.org/candidates, it'll be there. So check out the candidates, and if there's one running in your riding this election, go out there, support them, contact them, talk to them, and yeah, get yourself involved in the political process, because it can be really exciting. So yeah, anybody have any questions for our speaker today? Oh, we have a positive comment. I'm hoping that you win. I think you will do a lot of good for your community. And then Sharon also says, thank you for your time, Jason. So thank you. And Carla has a question. Carla, take it away.
Hi, Jason. Super quick. I know you did mention trying to get more youth involved in the political process, and you kind of outlined, youth getting involved in the communities. How do you, or what have you done to kind of encourage that in an era kind of post-COVID? Because from what I've seen in my experiences, it's kind of hard to engage people who, have been used to doing things from their home for like 2-3 years, and 2-3 years that are very like crucial to their development. How do you mitigate that?
Yeah, so I mean, in all fairness, I have not done anything post-COVID. I don't know if post-COVID is the right word, but where we are today, it's an interesting comment, and I think you're absolutely right. Screen time has gone up, interpersonal relationships have gone down, and I think this is going to be the telltale sign as the school year starts back up in Thunder Bay, and we're a pretty large area for international students coming to Canada and new students coming in from the province. So I think we've got to do more. I will say that pre-COVID, to try to gain more traction with youth, during the 2019 federal election, we hosted an LGBT forum in Thunder Bay with all candidates were invited, and it was well received and well attended, and there were some really great questions and really important questions asked around access to PrEP and how do we improve the health of LGBT folks in Canada. So that would be something I would be very intrigued to do now, although I'm in a conflict to arrange it, but hopeful that there's some stuff that comes into September with forums and opportunities for candidates to get into the universities and the college and different community forums to really engage with folks. It's important to answer those questions of folks. So nothing right now, Carla. Sorry, I didn't know if that was the answer you were looking for, but.
No, that's all right. I'm sure a lot of people don't have the answer, but I thought I might as well try asking. But thank you for the answer.
Thanks.
Diana in the comments also says, no question, but this was very informative and inspiring. So we might have a future candidate on our hands. And then they also added that they're also rooting for you, Jason.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that. And thank you for your time tonight. I know everyone's really busy, and keep up the good work, get involved, donate money to a candidate, go volunteer, go drop lit, even just send them a message on their social media saying good luck. We feel it, and sometimes when candidates are in the mud, they need a little bit of a lift up. So find those candidates and encourage them to keep going.
Beautifully said. And for all of those like still with us, just please do the feedback form because it'll help me do a better job next time. It'll help ProudPolitics know what it is that you want to hear from webinars, what is it that you want to talk about and hear about. And if you really enjoyed tonight, our next webinar is August 30th with Mark McLeod running in Sault Ste. Marie. Mark's candidacy is also really exciting because if Mark wins, they would become the first Indigenous city councillor in Sault Ste. Marie, as well as the youngest and the first gay councillor in Sault Ste. Marie. So we're going to be talking about representation. So if today was exciting, please join us for another exciting webinar to learn more and have a chance to talk to Marek and ask Marek some questions. And follow us on social media. Also, if you enjoyed this, it's just @ProudPolitics. Oh, and a comment. Thank you so much, Jason, for your valuable insight. And thanks, Rosina, for ProudPolitics team for organizing the event. Thank you both. Wonderful webinar. Thank you, everybody, for coming so much. I'm just going to finish our recording over here, but this will be posted on YouTube in a couple of weeks. So if you're interested in rewatching or, just, yeah, it was so much fun. You want to listen to it again, then please, keep an eye out for that. And again, just thank you so much. And especially to you, Jason, for your time today.